Have you ever heard that quote from John Maxwell that says, everything rises and falls on leadership? I happen to believe that to be true. I have yet to see that be disproven. Today on the Nailed It Show, I have my good friend, our client, Mr. Sam Stilley from Amstill Roofing, who in my opinion is one of the top leaders in the roofing industry. And he's still a very young guy. He's got a tremendous wealth of experience. I was able to sit down with Sam, hop on Zoom during a busy season for him, and really extract some of the leadership lessons on how he leads his team of nearly 100 people at Amstill Roofing. And really inspiring young fella, really inspiring to, see some of the things that we hear about at conferences, we read about in books, we see on social media, we hear about on podcasts, and to see someone really living these things and implementing them on a daily basis is extremely inspiring. So I hope you guys get a lot of value out of this. Take a couple of nuggets out of this for your own leadership on leading your team and really building your people up into leaders within your organization. It's really an impactful thing that we can all do more of. So without further ado, here's my conversation with Sam Stilley. All right, what's going on, Sam? How you doing today, buddy?
I'm good. How are you doing?
I'm doing fantastic. It's Wednesday, got a full day of meetings, busy week, but all good stuff. Mostly good stuff, I guess. How's your week going?
It's actually been kind of crazy. We had that crazy windstorm that happened last Thursday night, I want to say, and our lead volume's been up almost 400%, and we're booked out 2.5 weeks in advance on set appointments. So it's kind of been a little bit of a nightmare, but it's been good.
What do they call that? A land hurricane or something?
Yeah, derecho. Land hurricane is exactly what it was. I mean, the winds peaked at 127.9 miles per hour on the northwest side of Houston, and it went all the way through downtown. And then I heard the storm traveled to Florida to some extent, but I don't know how strong it was when it got to Florida.
Wow. Well, I'm up here in New Jersey, but I saw pictures and videos, and it's holy cow. Wow, incredible.
Yeah, it's just seeing those large electrical grids being mangled and twisted like aluminum is the best way of putting it, was actually kind of terrifying. So when the storm hit that night, I was at my townhouse and I was like, we got to go get water right now, because I didn't know what was happening.
Yeah,
I just had high winds where I lived and a little bit of flooding. So we drive a couple blocks, go buy a few cases of water, come back, and then I find out there's no power. Half of Houston on the northwest side is pretty much, for lack of better terms, destroyed. Massive structural damage to thousands of homes. Even today, right now, today is Wednesday. This happened last Thursday. There's people still without power, which is really sad and horrible. And the amount of trees, 200-foot pine trees just entirely uprooted, gone. I've never personally seen damage like this before in Houston.
Wow. So yeah, that's intense. Okay. Just want to make sure that we stay on track here. So leads are up over 400%. That's cool. I want to get back to that because you are someone that knows your numbers extremely well. It's very impressive and obviously very important for any business. So I want to dive into that. But for those people out there who don't know, Sam Stilley, give us a little bit of a background as to you and Amstill Roofing so we have some context.
Sure. Amstill was born in 1974. My dad started the company when he was 21 years old. I've been working here for 13 years on and off, and about 8 years full time. My dad had scaled the business large in the 90s, digressed because he didn't know if I'd have interest in being a part of it. And then when I was in college, I made the decision my senior year, I want to say, to do full time. So I ended up working in Dallas as soon as I graduated for another roofing company, living out of a hotel for about 90 days. And then I moved back to Houston before September 1st on his birthday, and went to work full time and haven't looked back. But we specialize in residential re-roofing, and the majority of our portfolio is retail based, but we are and do have the capacity to handle claims and insurance side of things. But we focus specifically on residential. That's really our niche. We have some commercial, but residential is what we thrive on.
Okay, awesome. And so 50 years old, is that correct? Did I do the math correct? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, 50 years old this year, which is pretty wild.
Yeah, you guys do anything to commemorate or celebrate that, or?
We sound really lame because I haven't thought about it, but I will have us have some sort of party or celebration. I know we made like a big deal at some company meetings, but we will throw a party this year once the storm work has subsided.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. I've got to know your dad a little bit last year at Best of Success. Frank, awesome guy. Loves America. That's what I remember about him the most. He loves this country. Is he a veteran?
Yeah. He actually, while starting the company, has served in law enforcement for 28 years.
Right, I knew that.
Ranked all the way up to captain. And he would literally work during the day in the roofing business. And then at night, he would do police work. And then when I was a kid, like very young, he would do roofing during the day, pick me up from school, take me home from school. He raised me as a single parent. By the age of 4, my parents had separated. So I was with him 100% of the time. And at night, I remember I want to say it was like 3 a.m. He would leave to go do felony arrest warrants with some law enforcement groups, the sheriff's department and maybe some of the constable's offices. And then he'd come back and pick me up and take me to school.
Wow. Where did that drive come from? Do you know? Like that's
law enforcement drive?
I mean, no, that to be that driven to have like a business and also rise up to captain in the police department.
I think if anyone who knows my dad, or let's put it this way, if you don't know my dad, I say he's probably the most driven person when it comes to focusing his mind to whatever he's wanting to achieve. And I think for him, he wanted to be a great parent. So he knew he had to be a great business person to provide income and support for us. And then he's always loved law enforcement, and he's always been super patriotic for this country, et cetera. And I think that was his way of giving back to the community, because all of his police work he did was 100% volunteer.
Whoa.
Not paid. Yeah, 100% volunteer.
So that wasn't like, I'm going to work 2 jobs to like make ends meet or pay the bills. That was like, I want to do this. Wow.
Yep, 100% just wanting to serve the community.
Amazing.
Yeah, it is incredible, truly.
I'm assuming that you downloaded some of that drive from him, some of those, a lot of those habits, I assume. Like, talk about that.
Yeah, so I mean, he's type A and a little OCD, not in a bad way, but that's just like him to a T. So I think growing up with that, it helped me 100% understand like work ethic, seeing him work. I mean, he'd take me to school in the morning, pick me up from school at 3 or 4 o'clock when I was a kid. And then he'd take me on roofing appointments all throughout the evening with him. And then we'd get back to the office and he'd do his paperwork, and I would sleep. I had a little mat. It was like a 3 foot by 4 foot mat. And I would sleep on the mat at the office at nights when he was doing his paperwork. So I've been and on weekends, if we weren't running roofing projects or appointments, him and I would we have a small lake house up north. So I spent all my time with him growing up. So I started understanding at a very young age, like, this is what's required to be successful. It is just hard work, dedication. And of course, I was too young to understand the financial piece in any capacity, but I just understood about the grind has never been a concern to me because it's what I know. That's what I was raised in. So like any business or anything I've been a part of, I've always been about being 100% into it, because that's just how I know you're supposed to be, from him raising me. So being organized, always, if you owe people money, paying them, don't be in debt, always take care of people, honor your commitments, honor your word, treat people how you want to be treated, always have respect, joy, love, peace, admiration for the day. I mean, these are all just kind of core things that have been constantly ingrained in me at all times.
That is so cool. Yeah. I mean, there's obviously parents are so influential. So mine were as well. I grew up in my family's construction business, and my dad still runs that with his cousin and his brother. And just, I think a lot of my work ethic came from just observing and then also being a part of that business for many years as well. So you have an entrepreneurship degree, right? From college?
I do. I stumbled upon that by luck. So
I didn't have that when I went to school, like back in the day.
Well, I am not scholastically or book smart. I want to 100% let everyone know that.
Okay.
And my grades would show that from high school. I didn't pay attention too much the second half of high school. And so because of that, my GPA or whatever wasn't great. And I remember applying to a whole bunch of Texas schools, and all of them denied me except for Texas State and the University of Houston. And I came to the conclusion that if I went to U of H, I could work for my dad on the weekends. So I decided to go to U of H. Ended up joining a fraternity my freshman year, and my fraternity is what kept me on campus. And then my alumni advisor comes to a meeting one day and says that there's this entrepreneurship program on campus that's #1 in the world.
In the world?
And I was like, I was like, oh, I'm going to 100% try this out. And then he said also that the director at the time was also in the same fraternity that I was in as an alumni. So I figured it'd be like, easy, go shake a hand. It didn't turn out that way. It was very hard to get in, and the guy did not care. But as soon as I found out about that program, I 100% decided to stay at the University of Houston, because I did ultimately want to transfer to go to UT, to like McCombs Business School, where, you hear these prestigious degrees. But I'm super glad everything turned out the way it did, because that program gave me a totally different way of thinking. And it really opened my mind to the possibility of really what you can achieve by owning your own business.
Wow, that's so cool. Yeah, I have a business degree, but like back when I graduated in 2003, they did not, the entrepreneurship wasn't like, it was like a few schools had that. It wasn't like many schools. Now I think it's obviously a lot more popular.
I think it's growingly becoming popular. And I think that here's the truth of it, and the reality is I think people love the idea of being an entrepreneur, and they like to put on their social medias and say I'm an entrepreneur. But I would say like maybe 15% of people are actually cut out to actually do what's required. The rest, and I've seen this firsthand, people that got these degrees just still went and got a job. And that doesn't make them a bad person by any means, but like I think that's diluted some of that space for the entrepreneur realm, because it's used so much. Everyone says they're an entrepreneur, but like people like yourself and people watching this, there's a ton of people that are true entrepreneurs.
Yeah. And no shade against, like, if you're an entrepreneur, right? Like if you're someone that works in a company, like
those are key people.
Like we have actually in our company, like I'm 100% owner, but our leadership team is, entrepreneurs. They take ownership. They're building their own divisions. I was actually just thinking about that this morning at the gym. Like as we grow, obviously leadership, you have to create a path for leaders to grow within your organization. I'm thinking like we need to develop different divisions of contractor dynamics. So like these leaders have their own divisions to run within the company. Otherwise we could risk losing them because they want to,
they want to grow. An entrepreneur, and a lot of people don't even know what an entrepreneur is, but it is a vital asset to any company that's wanting to grow, because it's essentially an entrepreneur who doesn't have to take the risk of the primary business owner, but has the latitude and the bandwidth and the thought process to function as an entrepreneur in the business. So it's essentially like the way I view an entrepreneur, a true entrepreneur. It's kind of like being like the Avengers, and like you're one of the superheroes, and then you have a whole bunch of superheroes with you, but you're all on the same team. And that's really how I view like entrepreneurs. So like they're superheroes on your superhero squad.
I love that. Yeah. So growing up in the biz, obviously really tight with your dad, entrepreneurship degree. It wasn't until senior year when you realized you wanted to actually be in the business. Did you, because I grew up in my family's business as well as a 6th generation family member. And like growing up, I was like, all right, I want to do my own thing. I think there's this natural tendency to be like, all right, this thing's available to me, this family biz, but I'm my own person. I want to try my own thing, which I did before I joined a family business. And then I left the family business. So that's a whole other story. But what was that path like for you when you realized, oh, maybe I can really build a career here and a great life here?
I'll never forget. It was so I went to school for 5 years. I definitely made sure I enjoyed college. And I think it was like my 3rd year. So I was like a junior, somewhere in that range. And there was a storm that had hit Houston. And I remember calling my dad and I said, hey, there's a storm that hit. You should go out there and work it. And I remember distinctly on the phone call, he goes, well, Sam, it's just me and Jose. And Jose's been with us for almost 38 or 39 years now. He's one of our foremen.
Wow.
And I said on that phone call, I go, okay, well, what do I need to do then? And he goes, well, you just got to go out and knock on doors and see who's interested in having the roof done. Now, mind you, I came from seeing my dad retail. Right. Never had done insurance in my life. And as God is my witness, that following Monday, like 2 days later, I was in the fraternity meeting and I said, hey, does anyone want to go knock on doors with me? I'll pay you. It was $25 per roof you got me on, and it was like $10 an hour. And I had 2 or 3 guys said they would help. We go out to this neighborhood. I'd never seen hail damage in my entire life. I didn't know how to file a claim. I didn't know how adjuster meetings worked. And we just started knocking on doors. And we were probably like 2 weeks late to the storm, to put this in perspective. And there was a gentleman by the name of Sonny. That was his first name. And I want to say that Sonny gave me a pivotal piece that made me say, this is what I 100% want to do. And this is like a month later, but we ended up selling like 100 roofs or something. The first adjuster meeting I went on, I told the guy I didn't know what I was even doing, and he taught me what to look for. I think God worked in mysterious ways, and all the pieces really worked out. But there's a gentleman named Sonny, and I'll never forget, he said, I'm so happy I found your company. and y'all did such a great job. And I can't wait to keep referring you to my friends and family. And that moment, it was like a light bulb turned on in my head. And I was like, I can do honest work, taking care of people. They're going to refer me, and I can make an honest living for the rest of my life. And that's when I decided, okay, I want to do this. And then fast forward about a year later, it was my senior year, my real senior year. And I took my dad with me to the entrepreneurship program because I wanted to figure out how we could scale the business. Because at the time it was myself, him, and Jose, our foreman. And I wanted to figure out how we could both make enough money to where it made sense. Because at the time, based off what we were doing and the income that was being made, it wouldn't make sense for me to have work there.
Right.
And we sat down in my director's office, and his name was Ken Jones. Super straightforward guy. I mean, the feelings were not a thing in that office, and I appreciate that and I respect that. And I remember sitting in there, and we were showing him our P&Ls, and hey, this is how much money the company's making, yada, yada, yada. And I said, Ken, I just don't understand how I'm supposed to make money in this. And he said, you just got to go figure it out, and you've got to grow the business. And the rest has been history. So I graduated, went to go work for Aspen Mark Roofing and Solar in Dallas under Chris Zazo to learn insurance and understand how the claims process worked. Came back to Houston, September. Dad's birthday, a couple months later, he has open heart surgery. And now I'm 100% running the business with very limited knowledge while he's in ICU for 3 or 4 weeks. And I'm thrown into the fire of like, okay, I've got to make sure this works and the company grows. And it's every year since then, other than 1 year, we've had at least a 35% growth year for the past 7 or 8 years in a row. It's been a journey for sure, but it wouldn't be possible without the people that have come and gone throughout the process and the people that have come and stayed with me to this day.
It was Frank, your dad, Jose, and you. And now fast forward to today, how many people do you have in the organization?
37 full-time people. And then we have our installation teams, which, there's probably a total of 70 to 80 installers.
So what's been, I mean, there's, we could spend 2 hours talking about like how that has happened, but like, what are the drivers to that growth? I mean, what happened?
I would say this, at first it was, how can I grow the business to a scalable size that makes sense to where my dad and I can have a great lifestyle and we can handle the volume of work within a reasonable amount. Like it wasn't like we're not working ourselves to death. We hire some people on to help us out, et cetera.
Yeah, you're going to the lake on the weekends. You're enjoying it. You're not, going crazy. Okay.
Exactly. So it got to that level, and then I started becoming addicted to growth. It became, I'm serious.
I know.
It became
I know
like
the feeling.
A high. It went from, okay, I want us to make good money to now, well, I have all these good people working with me. I want to be able to give them career advancement and financial stability to where they can have a great career here and not worry about going to find another job to make more money, whatever it is. And that's what's been the push driver to like keep pushing me to the next level. It's like, okay, well, I have all these great people. Like, for example, my office manager, she's been with me for going on 7 years now. And she was the first hire I ever made from a staff perspective. And I remember interviewing her, and I remember being afraid if I could afford $17 an hour. I remember being afraid if I could afford that.
Been there, done that. Yeah.
And I was in a 600 square foot office, and my dad was in ICU, and I hired her because I needed the help, because I was running the office, I was running the appointments, I was then doing the paperwork, and I was working 10 to 12 hours a day, 6 days a week, nonstop. And I worked that way for almost 2 years.
You just described 90% of roofing companies in the United States.
Yeah, I believe it.
And they stay there, right? As you know.
I know.
So this is like a great pivotal point of the conversation. So go ahead.
For those of you that are listening that you might be in that boat, you can get out of that boat safely, but you have to take on some risk. And I remember making the decision, I need to hire someone to help me do the part that I'm not the best at. And that was, I'm great at sales. God's given me an incredible talent to be able to talk and do sales. And I can do phone stuff and I can do admin stuff, but that doesn't fill my tank. So I remember hiring her, and she's been with me to this day, and she's my office manager now. And she's awesome. She is super woman for the company internally. And to answer your question, why we kept pushing this, I realized we could keep growing and people could get paid more and they could have better lifestyles, and we could service more clients with the same level of service we did when we were $1 million. And I haven't reached a point to where I feel like our quality's declined or our service has declined. So I felt comfortable to keep growing to the next level. The key thing though now is, we're such a large family, is making sure our culture stays in tune at all times. That's what's pushed the growth, is just this. I got a great sales manager. I got some great people that work here. I have a lot of great people that work here, but I have people that I want to know that they can be with me for as long as possible, and their potential isn't capped because of my vision. And that's become the most important thing to me.
What great leadership, man. That's awesome.
I appreciate it.
What are your seats now? Like, what seats do you sit in? What do you do with most of your time in the company?
I joke because I've become a desk jockey. It is what it feels like. The quarterback from the chair.
Here. Yeah. Nice cushy chair you got there. Look at that. You probably
we got the nice headrest. It's I got a little footrest down here so I can be propped up a little bit.
Yeah.
I would say my position in the company now is, one of my mentors is Rodney Webb. And his biggest thing is these two things. And I will attest that this is more accurate every day that I have truly become in tune with it. And my job now is I'm the GOP, I'm the guardian of the point to make sure the profitability is there for the company. And I'm making sure that leads are flowing in the way they should be. And I would say at the highest level, those are the two things I'm most responsible for. And then outside of that, it's with my check-ins with my sales management, my office management, making sure that everything on those sides are smooth sail. And if all three of those, they're kind of like a triangle, have a check box, the business is sailing in the right direction.
Love that. That's extreme clarity. So you have the GOP, the marketing, and then the third thing was checking in with your key people.
Yeah, so it's a guardian of the point and lead flow, the sales management and the percentages, closing, demo rates, and then, which is my sales manager, and then my office manager. So it's like production. Do we have backlog issues? Are we having forecasting of, do we need more teams out there doing work? So if all three of those are checked, then I know that we're sailing for success, like undoubtedly.
Awesome. So the nerd in me goes to this question, like, do you like segment your week in such a way, like where you're kind of devoting focused time to each of those, or is it just like all of that all the time, or how does that work?
So I would say from the sales manager check-ins we do weekly, every Friday, but him and I, we get along really well, great chemistry. So him and I talk probably every other day about whatever, going on. I really like being involved in the business. I enjoy it. I get fulfillment from it. It's like this, like a euphoric rush I get. And then from Destiny, from an office management side, it's really weekly from her.
Okay.
So on Monday. So I want to know from her on Mondays, and I want to know from sales management on Fridays.
Okay.
And then everything in between those days, it's really a hodgepodge. It could be random things, maybe meeting with vendors, working on suppliers, manufacturers, et cetera. Those high level things I 100% handle myself.
Okay. Love it. How did you get to this level of clarity? I mean, I feel like a lot of business owners, like we just kind of talked about, stay in that spot where they're working 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day, doing all the things. They never break through that ceiling. And I think a lot of it is because people don't take the time to like step back and like get clear on what they want and why. How did that develop for you to like, you have extreme clarity on your role and where you're going?
I learned very quickly when I was 23 years old, or I think I was 24 at the time. In order for me to grow or make more money, I had to hire people to do things that I was either not good at or that I could pay someone to do because their time, this is a great example. And I learned this in college, I'll share with you briefly, that their time doing that was worth more than my time being applied to that. So the best example I've ever had is from my macroeconomics professor at the University of Houston. Can't remember the guy's name to save my life, but I've used this example that he used in class at least 100 times. He goes, Tom Brady has a really nice house. And everyone in the class is like, yeah, of course, he's super rich. Who here, by show of hands, thinks that Tom Brady mows his own lawn? And like half the class raised their hand. And I didn't raise my hand for either answer because I just didn't know and I didn't want to pick a side. And he goes, okay, I would be willing to bet that he never has mowed his lawn probably in the past 30 years or 20 years because he knows his time is worth more than the $500-600 he'd save mowing his lawn. He could spend that same hour and do a commercial for $100,000 or $25,000. And that has stuck with me to this day. So what I did is I looked at at first when I was small. So like one man show, best way of putting it. If all the sales I did, the commission that I'm making from that, or the commission difference that I'm saving, if I could apply that money to then fill seats on the bus to help me then sell more jobs, I can become this much more profitable. I can sell this much more in revenue. So the first thing I did was I filled out positions. So Destiny. So she did my reception and she did my production, because I knew those were time slots that take away from me running more appointments. And I knew if I ran more appointments, I could sell more. And the profit from those sales, by not having a salesperson at the time, I could roll back into building the infrastructure of the business. And then from there, I then brought on 2 or 3 sales guys. And I said, okay, I can train these guys. I can be their sales trainer. I can help them close deals, and I can still sell while in the business. But I had to have this awareness of realizing that time is, everyone has the same amount of time, 24 hours a day. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, whoever is the wealthiest person you know, they typically will spend their time doing more high-level things and applying people in the right seat of the bus to do the things that they know bog them down on their time. And until you make that decision or that step in the financial investment to do that, you can never grow out of your space. It's impossible, because you will consume your whole day doing everything. And you've got to take awareness of realizing that when you do bring people on, the perfectionist you expect will not be exact, and you have to be okay with it being maybe 90% as good as you would do, but the time difference will make up for it way more than you can ever imagine. And I know a guy, I'm not going to say his name or his company, and I asked him why he hasn't grown his business. He does a ton of work. And he goes, I don't want to hire anyone because I know they'll never do a better job.
It's true.
And because of, and that is true, 100%. But because of that, he will never grow his business outside of just him. And that, if you're not careful, you can become a slave to your business and work 12-hour days, 6 days a week. And at that point, now you're losing your family time, you're losing your vacation time. You just be careful. That's all I can recommend. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that, but there are trade-offs you have to be willing to accept.
100%. Yeah. I'm going to take that back, because I said that's true. A lot of times that is true, but a lot of times that's not true, right? Like, as the owner, you might think you're the best salesperson, or you might think you're the best at putting on a roof, or the best at like running a Facebook ad or whatever. I used to do all those things except for put on the roof. And then you hire people and you realize like, whoa, because they're dedicated to that thing, like they are way better at that. They're able to provide if you're in sales, right? They're going to be able to get back to that prospect like right away instead of waiting 3 days. They're going to be able to serve that client better and get, a higher review or more referrals. Like, that's such an eye opener. And
that's true. I think the only thing though is that a lot of guys that started their own businesses view their business as their baby. And sometimes they feel like no one will treat their baby better than them. And there are some truths to that, but you just got to be okay with, we have 12, 13 sales guys. I have to be okay knowing that I'm going to have some guys that will close significantly less percentages than other guys. And that's okay, because I could go run every sales appointment in the world and sell X amount. But if I did that, I couldn't be doing what I'm doing here. I couldn't be growing the business. I couldn't be helping create more job opportunity in Houston. And you just got to see, you've got to really be open to the big picture.
Yeah, you got to think of the impact that you want to make, right? So you could sell yourself, and maybe you could even make more personal income on an annual basis as Sam Stilley, right? But you're not going to have that income. You're not going to be serving more people, providing more, employees and things like that. Yeah, one of the resources that you're, and what you talk about, Sam, is so, and I don't want to take anything away from it. It's like, it's very fundamental. And a lot of people have heard that before, like stop doing those $25 an hour tasks. But I think a lot of us, we just stay so busy that we don't zoom out and like look at the bigger picture and look at what we're actually doing. One of the books that can really help with that is Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. Amazing book there. I just actually had this conversation with our leadership team today. My calendar this week, it's a little crazy. And even my wife this morning was like, why is this week so crazy? Like, you're not traveling. I was like, I don't really know. I guess maybe I'm saying yes to too much, but at the end of the day, on Friday afternoon, I'm going to like look back at my calendar and just like look for opportunities to like maybe say no to things, because it can't be this packed every week, because I'm not going to be able to do my job as the leader because I'm in way too many things right now. So like that, just that simple awareness of like, okay, well, this week's a little bit crazy. Like, how was I spending my time? What can I delegate? What don't I need to do? What should I say no to? And things like that. Just that simple awareness can help you to just, create more freedom in your business, in your life.
100%. And that is priceless. The freedom is priceless, especially you being a parent. And I know there's a lot of people out here that are parents. Like, it's a scary risk, but it's worth the outcome.
Yeah. I mean, I said goodnight to my kids last night and like, kissed them goodnight. And I was like, man, like I was thinking to myself and I felt bad. Like I probably said 30 words to each kid yesterday, because I was like, I worked like a 14-hour day. And that's not normal by any means, but just being aware of that, be like, man, like I said goodnight, but I hardly like interacted with my kids. Like that's crazy. So yeah, just bringing a level of awareness to that. Hey guys, want to jump in here real quick to let you know about our Arena Mastermind that Benny Fisher and I run. Sam Stilley is actually a client of Contractor Dynamics. He's inside our Arena Mastermind. And what our Arena Mastermind is, it's a group of selected roofing and contracting company owners. We have a private app, we have a private Facebook group, we have in-person events. We're meeting up throughout the country. And we get together every Wednesday on Zoom at a minimum to talk about some of these things that we're talking about today. How to lead our people, how to delegate and elevate, how to make sure that we are focusing on things that we need to do every single day as an owner, how to build our teams, how to become more profitable, how to expand our businesses with marketing and things like that. So we get together on Zoom, like I said, every Wednesday. There's 20 to 30, sometimes 40 of us on that call, sometimes 10, sometimes 15. And we really help one another level up. Like being in a room like this with guys like Sam, guys like me, guys like some of our other clients who are all building and all focused on building really great companies together. So if you're interested in that, tap the link below, head on over to arenamastermind.co. Check out all the details over there. And we'd be happy to talk to you about that and see if you're a good fit for our Arena Mastermind. All right. So, man, this is awesome stuff. Great leadership. I wanted to get into the marketing a little bit more, Sam, because you're a whiz with the marketing numbers. You gave an amazing presentation at Best of Success last year in 2023. But I think we'll have to do a part 2 just in the interest of time here. But I want to start to wrap it up with, we're in May right now, May 2024. What are you excited about for this year? What's really, you mentioned that phrase before, filling you up. What's really like filling your cup right now?
I would say, we're going to have another growth year. We should grow by, I think it's going to be 1 or 32% is what we're forecasting. We've hit every metric to have us on pace. I'm excited for, really, this is my number one thing I'm most excited about this year, is the amount of time the sales team has put into training and developing themselves and them seeing constant growth to where they can run less appointments, close at higher percentages, and make more money and spend more time with their family or how they wish. And that is awesome because it's us, we invest about $250,000 a year into training and we train religiously. I mean, like 3 days a week type stuff. And to see the guys making life-changing impact on their results on a micro level is the most rewarding thing and what I'm most excited about from a company like ownership and like big picture perspective. I think it's really cool. I mean, we're giving the guys the ability to set themselves up financially however they wish based off their work effort. And that's like priceless.
That's huge, man. I mean, those guys are lucky to have you as their leader for sure, because, you could have been excited about, your upcoming wedding or something to do with you, but you automatically went to like your people, your team. So that's really cool.
The team's not taken care of first, I'll never have what I want.
Yeah, there you go. Do you sit down with your team, like sales reps, for example, and kind of figure out what they want? Like if they want to buy a house or if they want to get married or...
This is every single sales guy. Okay. This is all their goals, what they want to achieve, time frames.
Amazing.
It stays on my safe right behind me, so I can see it every single day.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's so cool. And I'm sure that you have that top of mind. Like, hey, Jose, you told me you wanted to buy a house this year. Like, how's that going, right?
100%.
Wow.
Yeah, it allows, and my manager has a copy of those all as well, typed up. Because when we review with our team, like we want them to be focused on what they're achieving. Because like, yeah, we can say we need to sell more, we want to sell more, we want to sell more. But people work when they're fulfilling their own why. And it's important for us to know their why so that we can help motivate them. And if you don't know your people's why, then I don't think you can get them to unleash their ultimate potential.
Cool. Yeah. I mean, we see clips like that, like what you just said, right? Like that's like an Instagram reel clip that you see all the time, the motivational speakers. I mean, man, I talked about those things, right? We read about those things in books. We go to see, Ed Milet at a conference or whatever it might be, and we hear these things, but we don't put them into action. Like for the audience, I want them to hear that from Sam, who's obviously a very intelligent person, an amazing leader, running a company, implementing those things. They're so crucial. And I think our world on social media, everyone's looking for like the flashy, like, hey, how can I generate more leads? How can I get more sales? Like all this, those things are important. Yes. But this foundational stuff that you're talking about is like, you can't have any of that other stuff without like this foundational stuff. Like that needs to come first, right?
100% right. That's critical. And I think that everyone wants the flashy, instant stuff, but that stuff that I showed you is what allows you to get to those things. And if you skip that step, you have unhappy people, you have a revolving door, people coming out of your business, it won't work the way you want it to, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah. And I believe that and I've been doing this 11 years. So like you can go after that money and, make that money at the beginning, which I think is a driver for all of us, right? Like we need to obviously make an income. And if you don't have that foundation, you're going to you might get knocked down to that foundation by God or, just circumstances of business and the way that the world works. And you'll be forced to build that foundation at some point, I believe. So much insight, man. And thanks for agreeing with me with the 100%. It makes me just, look good on my own podcast. So thank you.
No, I think you're awesome. I think what you do is awesome. I think that this stuff has like a lot of value. And like my biggest hope is that one person watches this and says, I'm going to take action.
Yeah.
If just one person does that, this conversation we spent time on could change the financial and the future of one person's life in ways that they don't even know yet. But all they got to do is make action.
Well, yeah, I know your time is valuable, and I appreciate you sharing that with that impact in mind. So as we wrap up, Sam, you have time for a few quick lightning round questions, kind of get to know you a little bit better?
Yep. Let's do it.
Current book that you're reading?
Right here. Radical Husbands.
I know who recommended that to you.
Yep. About halfway through. Yep. Benny Fisher.
Yep. He recommended that to me as well last year. It's good. Yeah.
Good book. It's a good book, and it puts a lot of things in perspective, and a lot of the stories in there hit home.
Yeah, absolutely. Cool. Do you have a morning routine?
I don't have a set one. No. I typically wake up in the same window of time. About 7:30 is when I wake up. I check to make sure there's no issues or concerns that have been brought to my attention, and I'll try to go on a walk in the morning or go work out, and then I'll be in the office typically 9 o'clock, I want to say.
Cool. Love it.
But nothing hardcore regimented.
You don't wake up at 4:37 and do an ice bath and then go in the sauna and meditate for an hour?
I have done crazy regimens like that, and I've learned that it's better for me just to wake up and do it all my time instead of saying I'm going to be here at this exact minute, because then if I miss it, it throws off my day.
I am very structured, and like I've caught myself there when my morning routine was so structured that like one of my kids waking up early would throw me off. And I'm like, I need to be a little bit more flexible. I can't be so brittle or so stiff that I'm brittle and I break easily, right? Cool. Next travel destination.
I want to go to Japan.
Yeah.
Specifically, I want to go skiing in Japan. The resorts that I've seen online look insane.
Very cool. And you just got back from Argentina, right?
I did. Yeah. We went on a dove hunting trip, which was exceptional. It was fun.
It sounds like it. That's awesome. Good for you. What are you doing on a free Saturday?
Well, I have a hobby store business, and I like playing tabletop miniatures. They're strategy games. It's like chess on steroids. So maybe once a month on a Saturday, I like to go play in person at the hobby store.
That is so cool. Yeah, I saw you when you bought that a few years ago. Like, I was like, what? That's so random, but it's so cool. That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I started that from the ground.
Oh, I'm sorry. All right.
Yeah.
My bad. Okay.
It is definitely super weird. I'm not going to,
No, I didn't say weird. It's just like,
it's different.
Yeah, it's different.
It's super niche. It's like you build your models, you paint them, and you play grand scale strategy on 6 foot by 4 foot tables. So it allows me to, I feel like, get into I'm left-handed, so my artistic side of my mind, but it also helps with my strategy, and because you're playing chess essentially, but against a live person on a large grand size table. It's a lot. It's not for everyone, but it's a lot of fun.
I'm glad I asked, because that's a world that I don't really know anything about, but that's very interesting. Cool.
It is different. It's
all
cool.
Right. And finally, how can people, if you want people to connect with you or just follow you, or, do you put out content or anything like that?
Content will be coming. You can find me on Facebook. I know I'm pretty much a boomer because of that. You can add me there, which is totally fine. And if you have questions or if you want to connect, just send me a message. about whatever you'd like to talk about. And I'm totally happy within reason to help you or give you advice. And whether you want to use the advice or not, totally up to you, but I'm happy to lend it.
Man, I appreciate that so much. Such a generous offer. You've got a lot going on. So thank you, Sam. And thanks for all your time today. Thanks for pouring into us. We didn't get a chance to talk about the marketing and the numbers and all that because you're really dialed in, but this is a teaser for part 2. And, we marketing guys, we always need to leave a little bit of a teaser for the next one. So
yeah, we'll dig deep into all those numbers.
All right.
I'm excited. I like to geek out too.
I know. Yeah, I appreciate that. So I'll talk to you soon, Sam. Thanks again. And that's it.
Thanks, Joseph.
All right, guys, as I mentioned, I really wanted to get into some of the marketing knowledge that Sam has and the way that he tracks all their marketing, because he's one of probably the sharpest marketing-minded roofing company owner that I've ever come across. So that'll definitely be a part 2. We're going to schedule that. But I wanted to sit on those leadership lessons that he shared with us because that was such valuable stuff. These are all things, again, like I said at the beginning, we hear about, we see, we read about, but very few people actually take the time to implement these foundational things. So go ahead and implement some of those things. Reach out to Sam. He's a generous guy. Reach out to me on Facebook, on LinkedIn, on Instagram. Just search for Joseph Hughes. And as always, we really appreciate you guys subscribing to the podcast. Subscribe to the YouTube channel so you can get fresh content in your inbox. Get notified every single week as we reveal different conversations like this one with Sam. Thank you guys so much for your time and attention today, and we'll see you soon.